Hi again, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. I'm here today at Exemplar Horticulture, a specialty producer of ornamental grasses, perennials, and other interesting plants. The focus of this tour today is to have a look at how they divide their ornamental grasses, and Julia, a member of their growing team, was kind enough to give us a tour around the site.
So this is our grass division house where we start all of the divisions and then they'll be moved either for potting next year or stock for previous years. So a lot of these we will, if I can pull one out, we will divide them in half, and half will go for planting, and then we'll divide that again, and then those will be our stock plants. So we continuously have our plants.
So does this pretty much represent a lot of the diversity of the grasses on your nursery?
This is a small fraction, actually.
Okay.
So we have another site where we have all of like the miscanthus and the panicums, but this is a small amount of what we have, actually. This is new to us this year, so it's the Cortaderia tiny pampa, and it's really neat because it blooms quite a lot shorter than those big, you know, the Celoana.
Sure. Those pampas grasses are massive, but this is the full size?
This is full size. So this was potted this year into a 1 gallon and then potted up, and they bloomed same year and super nice and compact.
That is super colorful.
Right?
That's the, what, the Japanese bloodgrass?
Yeah, the Imperata. It is gorgeous right now.
Yeah, that's some great color. That is just, I don't know if it's going to come up on the camera, but that sort of light magenta color in the new foliage is great.
It's kind of cotton candy, right?
Yeah.
It's super cool. I know when I started here, I never knew how many like varieties of grasses there was. And then you really see like, you got pinks, it's super neat. So this is our stock field. So every year we will dig it up and we will divide it and then replant it. So we've got your Karl, your Eldorado, Overdam, Hello Spring here.
Okay, now this is all for Calamagrostis.
Yeah.
And it would seem to me then that that is one of your major crops, because you're just planting out a bazillion stock plants here.
That is our bestseller. It's our, especially for Alberta, we sell a ton of Calamagrostis. It's a big one here.
So you say Alberta, and I would imagine then the reason is because it's very hardy.
It's very hardy, and they get the nice plumes out there. So
okay.
I find it looks nicer out there as well.
Yeah.
So they love it out there.
So super tall plant.
Super tall.
And you got the Karl Foerster, which is sort of the standard green color. And then you mentioned other varieties like Overdam and Avalanche.
Yeah, you got your Eldorado, the nice variegated ones here.
Right, and that's got a gold variegation in the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So this was done recently?
So we dug this up a couple weeks ago, probably end of August. We replanted it and then we'll spray it, and then it's good for winter. It's very low maintenance, surprisingly. So you dig it up, you plant it, spray it, and then you just clean it up, and over winter it'll be fine.
And it won't take long for this to dominate the area, that's for sure.
Oh, one day they're tiny and then you come in and they're like as tall as you. It's crazy how quickly they come up. We actually divide these into 9 centimeter, and so we will pot, I can kind of wiggle one out for you. They're potted from a 9 centimeter. These are what we would dig up. So that's what they look like coming out of the ground. Pretty big, ugly beasts.
Yeah, that's pretty coarse coming right from the field.
And then, I can kind of show you. These are the sizes that the ladies have done. They divided them too.
Okay, so that's divided into actually quite a small division.
They're tiny, yeah.
And they're going to end up from there in a 9 centimeter pot.
So these ones here would be for a 9 or 32. It's about 6 or 7 branches per. And then that would be a 72.
Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. So depending on what size they divide, that decides what you're going to grow it in.
Yeah, so under 4 little branches, it would be a 72, and then above that, it would be either a 9 or 32. And then we've got the little babies. So we try to use everything we get from the field, that we don't like to throw anything out. So we'll take the babies and kind of buddy them up, and then we can pot those too.
Perfect. I mean, it's pretty stunning for somebody who isn't familiar with grass division. I mean, when I'm dividing, I'm taking big clumps. But to know that you can get away with something as small as that and still succeed is great.
I know, and they'll bulk up super quick. From even just like a little tiny 2 stems, they'll get huge in a couple weeks.
What are they using to divide these? What tools are they using?
We just use these little pruners here.
Oh, perfect.
Because basically, I can kind of show you the process.
Thank you.
They like to rip it and get it into smaller clumps so that it's easier for them to work with. So you can kind of break it up as you want. And then we'll just trim the top. And we'll just clean it up really well so that it doesn't mold over the winter and get really bad botrytis. And then you just, quick one, trim the roots, and then they're good to go.
Perfect. And maybe I'll go back to what you just said there, is cleaning off that extra material, the extra roots, extra dead grass on the top, protects it from rotting in the winter.
Yeah.
And that would be one of your biggest concerns, eh?
Yeah, kind of getting a lot of botrytis. Rajpal, do you want to come here? She is the most experienced division lady. She's like...
You've been dividing grasses for years, eh?
Yeah. She is speedy. They are super fast. You can be pretty aggressive with it too.
Right? I'm noticing you're not being gentle.
No. So I think from one plant they can get about 13 divisions. I think that's what we... So you can get quite a few.
If we do 32 plugs or 9 centimeter, then we use this size. We're not going to too higher, because when they grown up, then we cut back. The new growth coming from here. So this one 9 centimeter. These one we plant in 32 plugs.
I'm just going to pan up here for a second and ask the guy who plans it a little bit about overwintering temperatures, because you have grasses that need to be overwintered warmer and ones that need to be overwintered a bit cooler.
Yeah, so the hardiest stuff like this Calamagrostis here can stay outside here year-round, no problems at all, and it's hardy to Winnipeg, so we have no concerns keeping that outside. On some of the many of the warm season grasses can also stay outside in our climate over winter. The thing is, they take longer to wake up in the spring. They need soil temperatures over 10 Celsius for them to even consider waking up. So a lot of those will either overwinter outside and then be brought in the spring for a little quick warm-up so that we can hit our market. But most of it stays outside.
Okay, cool. So a little forcing in the spring.
Little forcing in the spring, yeah. And then the warmer crops, like for example, some of these calyxes here, the evergreens, we'll keep those inside. They're hardy enough to be outside, but the cold winds that we get here can certainly do some damage to their leaves and just make them not great to look at and more difficult to ship, and they lose their retail appeal at that point.
Sure, I guess an ugly plant is almost as bad as a dead plant at that point.
Pretty much worse, actually.
Because you're caring for it.
A dead plant you definitely know what to do with. An ugly plant, you sit there and you wonder if you're going to keep it or not. Perfect. Thank you for that. I asked you to show me the tray sizes because we're saying things like 72 and 32, and the audience isn't going to automatically translate that, so I'm going to face downwards here. And what size tray is this, and how do you determine that?
So this would be your 72 cell here.
Okay.
How to determine it is they go by, I think that's 6 by 12.
Okay, 6 by 12 makes 72.
If you count it, it'll always add up to 72 or 32. So these are the empty sizes.
Right, so the tray itself fits into the same footprint as the 32,
yeah.
And the difference is that you've just got different amounts of cells in them. And so you would use a 72 like this to finish a smaller pot, as you mentioned earlier. And if you're going to propagate into a larger cell like this and grow them out and root them in that, then you're probably going to use those to finish a larger pot.
I find with 72s, a lot of the time they do better just because it's a smaller plug size, so they have a little bit more time to root, as like a 32 is a lot bigger, that sometimes it is a lot slower, right?
Right.
So I find 72s, they tend to root quicker and a lot faster.
Right.
Yeah. These are nice. We started doing the big tubs of the annual grasses. They turned out fantastic.
Wow. Now, that almost looks like papyrus or something.
It is. I think it's king tut.
Wow, that is so cool. And so these are finished plants that are ready for shipping, I assume.
Yeah, these were on the spec truck this week, so they are finished and done.
Now, you got a liriope down here, which obviously is not a true grass, but it's something you guys grow as well. I actually looked at your availability, and you guys actually grow a ton of perennials as well.
We're mostly perennials and grasses. So we started off mostly grasses and really have expanded it into a lot of perennials this year.
Oh, what's this?
These are the pitcher plants. We just started these and they are super cool.
Well, they don't look like they're having any trouble putting on some weight. Like, these are not shy.
They started off super small. So we tested them in reservoirs of water, because I did hear that sometimes they like to be, you know, quite wet. But we took them out of the reservoirs and they bulked up and got their red color. Then they look super good.
But you still are using, I would imagine, a fairly moisture retentive media then.
Yeah, we used a peat moss for these.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and those were done, I think, in July too. They bulked up pretty nice. These were trimmed for potting. I think these are going into 2 gallons right now.
And so you grew them up into the 15 centimeter, you trimmed them down, and then you're going to plop them into a 2-gallon pot.
Yep.
And so and I guess trimming off the grass, the top of the grass makes it a lot easier for handling.
A lot easier for handling, and just a good practice for overwintering, because we'll just trim them, pot them, put them on the ground, and leave them till next year. So it just helps save you some time, do everything at once, right?
You're handling it anyway.
Right? Just get it all done. Over back here, we're gonna have all of the finished Karl, from 5 gallons to 9 centimeters, 15 centimeters. It'll all be in this back corner here.
Okay, now this is gonna fill some trucks.
Right? I think we might have enough for this year, but this would be all of our hellebores, ferns, bruneras. That's my favorite house.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
Look at the color on those.
I know, they're gorgeous in here. So this will be all of our potting for 2024. So we recently just potted it all up, and then it'll get overwintered in here for next year. That way everything's nice, big, bulky, and full. So we have 2 different potting lines here. We've got the red line, which is good for bigger potting, such as like 2 gallons and 1 gallon rounds. So that will be good for like the big Karls, right?
So it fills big pots basically straight on the, now they just manually place the pot down on front of this end and it fills it, or what happens there?
I can kind of show you. So it's very loud, sorry. So you just fill it. So you'll have 2 people working here, and then it's super quick. You just pop it in, give it a tap.
Nice.
Right?
Well, that takes away some of the shoveling and filling.
Right? No, you can do quite a few. I think we did, it was like 705 gallons in a day on there.
Wow.
So you can get quite a bit done. And then this would be for 15 centimeters and 9 centimeters. It's the transplant line. And then it's got the little claws so you can transplant as well.
Okay, so let me just have a quick look here.
Yeah, so
You say this is the transplant line, and that's a soil elevator there that fills these 15 centimeter pots that come out on the other side ready to be transplanted, right?
yeah, so they'll come out on the other side here, and then either you can hand plant or you can turn this on and put your plug trays in there, and it will pop them for you.
So that's the automatic transplanter there with, I guess it's got 4 little grippers on there, and it can just pull from a 32 cell tray and move it over.
Mostly we do 102s and 288s on here.
Oh, so smaller plug trays.
Smaller plugs, yeah. 32s and stuff we plant by hand
Yeah,
here.
because that's, you'd hardly save any time.
Right?
All right, that should wrap up the tour. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Greg, Paula, and Julia, and the entire team here at Exemplar, who were so welcoming to have me on the site, making a nuisance of myself. If you have any questions, please drop those down into the comments below the video. I'll see what I can do to help.